Hey, how much do you think about what you put on your body? How much do you think about the clothes that you're wearing? How much or how often are you even asking yourself, are my clothes empowering me? Are my clothes full of magic? Are my clothes bringing me to the place I want to go? Well, we don't really ask ourselves those questions because we're just basically getting dressed. But do you know, for a lot of time and for a lot of cultures, what we wear, what we put on our body is actually very significant. And it's itself a prayer. And it itself is like casting a spell. Hey, nice to see you. Glad you're here. I am Sam from thesamanthawild.com. I am many things. I am the mother of 6 children. I am a nationally juried fiber artist. You see me right here in my studio with all kinds of wonderful, interesting, spontaneously freestyle woven pieces. I am also the author of a couple of novels, also longtime yoga teacher, ordained minister, and spiritual mentor. I wonder if there are any other things. Oh, little fiber farmer. And it's a snowy day here in the studio. Look at the snow coming down. I'm happy to be with you, and I want to talk about something that's really important to me. And it's always sort of surprising that it's not important to other people, but I know there's some people it's important to. And I'm here to talk to you today about what you're wearing. And the reason that I'm talking about what we're wearing is that I'm in the middle of my Mystical Mystery Scarf project. Well, actually, I'm at the beginning of it. I have the first one off and I'm starting the second one. And each of these pieces is going to be a scarf that is infused with magic, naturally mystical, and that is a sacramental garment. Now, how many of those do you own? Did you ever watch Mr. Rogers? Do you remember what he did? Of course, he'd come in from outside and he'd take off his outside jacket and he'd put on his inside jacket, right? Just sort of ordinary. Maybe not even that meaningful. A lot of us do that. Or we might come inside, take off our shoes, put on our indoor shoes or our slippers. But you know what? It's more than just ordinary, what you're putting on your body. Of course, a lot of this has been taken away from us. For most of the history of human time, what people wore was original. Now, as a weaver, everything I weave, I call a divine original, because it is. It's a total one of a kind. And what's important to me about that is I say, this piece or this piece is one of a kind just like you. And what's important is how that reflects to somebody their own divine originality. That in itself is a resistance. That in itself is a protest against all the negative things of AI, all the negative, toxic, terrible things and consequences that are happening, not the least of which is that we have forgotten about the preciousness of individual people. Weaving is a naturally mystical process, especially for me because I am weaving freestyle, not really knowing. I'm tuning into my channel and weaving. Here's a beautiful piece I wove a long time ago. I'm going to put it on now. And it was made from 3 different dresses that were on their way to the landfill. You know those clothes. And became this wonderful boho, unique, one of a kind. I wove this piece when I was pregnant with baby number 6, and so I had put in these little maternity cloth, that some of the fabric of one of the dresses, so that it could expand with my tummy. And I'm actually thinking of taking them out now because I don't need them anymore. What's really interesting is that when women want to feel empowered in how they dress, they generally dress sexy. And then the saying is like, oh, I feel so empowered. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not making a judgment. But I think current events can tell us that we are kind of being dictated to what is sexy, what makes us feel empowered, based on what we think other people want to see. For example, you wouldn't look at me and say, well, this is sexy. Say I'm in her empowered outfit. And yet for me, 100%, when I am wearing my own hand-woven clothing, I really do feel the richness of it. There's an understanding in most traditions, and there's a beautiful amount of mythology and folklore and history around this, that items of clothing, hand-woven pieces, carry their own energy. They have their own consciousness. They have a little bit of life inside of them, even though they're, of course, inanimate objects. So when you think about dressing to find your empowerment or dressing to express your own unique identity, we do have to kind of get rid of the layers of other people telling us how we should dress and what it should look like. When I was wearing this beautiful piece, which I also wove for myself, I had one of my friend's children come and say to me, "Oh, is that handmade?" And I said, "Yes." And the little child was like, "I can tell." I don't want to make things that look like they're machine made. In fact, the tradition that I studied in, the Saori tradition, that's one of the main precepts, is that we're trying not to make machine made. Why is the compliment that you are wearing something that looks machine made? By the way, I am wearing a dress that was made by April Cornell. In case anybody has any questions, this is a dress I wrote about on my Substack when I wrote about mystery and magic. This is the dress I got as the mystery dress. But this above it is a piece that I wove for myself, where you can see the sun rising inside of the heart. I think this is a good cultural moment to really think about how we would live if we were putting on clothing as sacrament, if we were putting on clothing as part of a sense of ritual or ceremony inside of our day. Now, we hear a lot about people coming back to the wheel of the year or incorporating more mindfulness or more spiritual practices inside of their day. And I think that's really powerful. I think that's really important. And me personally, I've had a spiritual practice for a very, very long time and taught about it for a very, very long time. So of course those things are important. But I also think that we could take it to that level of considering what we're putting on our bodies. This helps us to care not just for ourselves, but for others, the community, and the world itself. When I'm putting on my hand wovens that were sustainably made from landfill-based material or upcycled or repurposed material, I understand what that means, given that we have so many textiles and so much textile waste that honestly it does feel different than when I put on a dress from Old Navy, where we know things are being created for the purpose of obsolescence, I think that's how you say the word, and for waste. And we also know that they're often be created in unfair conditions by children in factories. I mean, it's hard to feel beautiful when you put clothes on knowing those circumstances. I would invite you to be part of my Mystical Mystery Scarf. I'm weaving each of these as commissions. Have you ever had anything created just for you? I don't mean necessarily by a grandma who makes you knit you a sweater that you think is really ugly, but have you, because I understand that does happen, have you ever had anything created as a commission just for you? You know, for me, as a weaver and a fiber artist, has been one of the most meaningful things to feel the heart connection, to tune in to other people while I weave for them, to listen to that divine voice and feel led in weaving and creating a garment that's sacramental. And what does that really mean to be sacramental? Well, it brings us up and outside of the ordinary. It brings us and lifts us up to that metaphysical, which is to say most of life is like, think about the iceberg where you can only see the tip. Most of life, most of the world is what's below that surface, the depth of it. Most of everything we don't know, even though we think we know everything and now we think we can get it all by doing an internet search. What scientists and researchers of the ocean and of the stars and the cosmos and the universe tell us is that actually most of what there is to know, we don't know. And so being able to connect yourself to the numinous, to God, if God is the word you use, to the Great Mother, which is the language that I use, to your cosmic sense and connection. This is not woo-woo. This is not a mistake. You know, the mistake is when we're just like, oh, I'm dressing so I can look like a sexy 12-year-old. Well, I think we really can see the problems with that, so many problems with that. Not to mention, does that really allow us to feel empowered? Does that really allow us to feel inside of ourselves that we are connected in a deep way to the all that is? I don't know how many people are thinking about sacramental clothes, ceremonial dressing, but I certainly am. And I hope it's been interesting for you to think about it. I'd love to know any comments you have, particularly if you have a piece of clothing that really does feel like that holy magical clothing. Put that comment down below. It would be very interesting for me, and I think other people too, to read like what are your holy clothing? Are they sweatpants? What's your holy clothing, everybody? Thanks for being here. Don't forget, give a like. And while you're here, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I show up whenever I can. Hopefully going to be showing you a little bit more, trying to do some more live videos so that I can really be authentic and present with all of you, sharing as I'm able during, really challenging time. It's still very important for me to show up and share about creativity and share about beauty and share about the gifts of fiber art. Okay, so thumbs up, hit the notification bell. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time. And leave a comment about your sacred clothing and have a really beautiful day.